You're listening to
Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington. Way below acceptable. Way below acceptable.
On this week's episode,
people in this generation do not realize what we had to do just to get a chance to be seen on television or just to get a chance to have a Voting Rights Act.
Way below acceptable.
Hey there, Sticky Note Conversation listeners. This is your host, Erika Washington, and I am really excited to be bringing you a very special episode of Sticky Note Conversations. I have recently had the opportunity to sit down and have an in-depth conversation with the one and only Kerry Gordy. There is a new documentary that is currently streaming on Netflix entitled Sunday Best, the Untold Story of Ed Sullivan. Kerry Gordy, he's the producer. And so we talked about not only this incredible documentary, but also his life, his work, and his future plans. So joining me now is Kerry Gordy, who is affectionately known as KG.
Okay.
And enjoy the conversation. Hey, how are you?
My life is amazing. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing well. I have no real complaints that I can do anything about right now. So
Good deal.
So I want to start off with this conversation stemmed from another conversation around this documentary, which I knew nothing about until very recently. And then I watched it, and I actually had a few other friends watched it since then. And everyone has really enjoyed this documentary, and everyone's like, I didn't know this about Ed Sullivan. I didn't know that, you know, he was a pioneer, that he had to push so hard to have Black acts on his show. So watching it, I was amazed at the amount of face time that Black artists got during a time that was so tumultuous and hard for Black folks just to live, just to have this opportunity to be on television, which for me feels like was a part of that breaking down of barriers. And so wanted to start with asking you how you got involved with this project with Sunday's Best.
Okay, so here's how it started. Margot Speciale, who is Ed Sullivan's daughter, decided that she wanted to do a documentary on her grandfather. One day she was with Ambassador Shabazz, who is Malcolm X's daughter, and she found out that she was the granddaughter of Ed Sullivan and said, "Oh my gosh, your grandfather brought so much joy into our homes when we were growing up. My father loved Ed Sullivan," and so forth and so on. Margot was like, "Wow, what made Ed Sullivan so great to your father, who's amazing," right? And she says, "Well, because this was the only place that my father and my family could see Black people on television. Because prior to Ed Sullivan, there were no Black people on television or represented on television. And if you did see them, they were only represented as maids or butlers or hooligans." Right? So to that end, she said, the fact that I was able to see, and my father was able to see people that look like us finally with dignity and respect, that was just amazing. And I want to give you such congratulations, and we want to thank you so much for what you've done. Margot was like, "Oh my God, I really do need to make this documentary, and I need to make it from a unique perspective." She goes and she gets with this company, Delirio, and a guy by the name of Rafi Marmor at Delirio Films, and they decide, okay, we're going to make this, and we have to find a Black director that really gets it and understands the concept. So they met with quite a few people, and they ended up with Sasha Jenkins. Sasha is a great director. He was the music editor for Vibe magazine. He co-authored the Eminem biography. He was a writer on the Boondocks. He did 50 Cent's biography, the Beastie Boys biography. But how I met Sasha was I did the Rick James and the Biz Marquee projects with him as an executive producer. So I get a phone call from them saying, Carrie, we would love to bring you on as an executive producer to help us get this made with the vision that we see. And of course, this was not only a vision that I had, but it was a passion project for me. And it was a project that had purpose, because anybody could have made the Ed Sullivan documentary, but I don't think they would have made it from this perspective, showing how Ed Sullivan humanized Black people, how he brought these Black people to his audience of 35 to 50 million people a week. You would never know of a Sammy Davis Jr. or a Nat King Cole or a Lena Horne or, Ella Fitzgerald, Satchmo, Louis Armstrong, Diana Ross and the Supremes, the Jackson 5. You would not know of these people had it not been for Ed Sullivan's platform. And not only that, he humanized them. When I say he humanized them, he did stuff that the sponsors didn't want him to do. He wasn't supposed to touch the hand of a Black female. He wasn't supposed to make them feel or look like they were accepted in the white world. He made people see that Black people weren't these hooligans and weren't these ridiculous savages that the South had portrayed us to be. He was a hero, and he was amazing, and he did it against the Ku Klux Klan. He did it against the broadcasters. He did it against the sponsors who were threatening to take his show off the TV, and he didn't care because he believed that Black people should have the same rights as everybody else.
How do you think that he was able to do that? Thinking about sponsors not wanting him to do X, Y, and Z. And I know that he lost some sponsorship, but what was it about Ed Sullivan that he could make these decisions and not have to bow down to the president of CBS or whoever the powers that be were, that they didn't just replace Ed Sullivan?
Because he had the number one show in the world for 23 years. And he had an audience of 35 to 50 million people. And that means money. And the point is that once you are making money for these people, then there's a different issue. Now, can they afford to lose the millions of dollars that they're making every week because Ed Sullivan's on television because he has a point of view? No. So it was the green that kept him on the air. Another thing is, as quiet as it was kept, Black people bought products too, right? And the fact is, even though they didn't want to admit it, if you're talking about Cadillacs and whatever it is, we were buying them too. We were buying all of the products that everybody else buys, from toothpaste to soap, right? Which we never got credit for because, according to them, Black people didn't use toothpaste and didn't use soap. Right?
Well, there's that. But I think we talk a lot about today the buying power of the Black community and how we have to use our dollar to make certain points to stand up for what's right and to also take our dollar away from people who don't treat us well. And so I think this is a prime example of the Ed Sullivan show showing that then the Black dollar is powerful because they also were a part of the reason that it was such a number one show. Because if you're showing Black folks and Black folks are watching, that had to be a strong demographic for him.
Well, when I was a kid, it was the only place that I could go to see people that look like me. And not only that, the other kids in the neighborhood would have to come over to my house or other people's houses that had TVs on Sunday night because they wanted to see someone who looked like them. It was amazing when you would see another Black performer or a Black person on television because you really didn't get the chance to see it. And by the way, this wasn't that long ago in the history of America, if you think about it, right? I have to tell you, when I saw the Jackson 5 on Ed Sullivan, that was amazing because Michael was just a little bit older than me. And it represented opportunity. This is what you can be. This is what you can have, right? Prior to that, when I was a child, some people would say to me, you can be anything you want to be, right? You could be the president of the United States if you want to, right? As a Black child, I heard it and I never believed it because I'd never seen a Black person attain that before. So you can hear it, but you don't believe it. Now, my daughter came up seeing Barack Obama and those two little Black girls in the White House. She can aspire to be that because she knows that can really happen. And that's what the Ed Sullivan Show did for all of these performers. It showed every Black person in America that, you know what, this can happen to you, right? You can attain this American dream.
Yeah. And it wasn't that long ago. And I think, for some of our audience, they might actually remember this time. And there are others who are somewhat younger who may not be able to grasp that at one point there weren't any Black people on television in any shape, form, or fashion. I know that it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around knowing that I grew up seeing some Black people on television. Mind you, they weren't all, positive, but there's always been Black people on television in my lifetime. However, I do know that shows like Julia and other shows that really showed Black folks doing regular things, right? On one hand, it's like, oh, that's great. And on the other hand, it feels like, the amount of work you have to do to prove that we all are human beings. We all breathe oxygen the same way and we all go to work the same way. So having to, showcase something like Diane Carroll on Julia, who was a single mom, a nurse, she was a widow, and having a son and having neighbors and having, whatever frictions at work with her silly boss, that's just normal for all of us.
Listen, I used to tune into Julia because it was the first place that I could remember seeing a Black lead for a television show. But then the other television show that I used to watch was Mission Impossible because Mission Impossible had Greg Morris, who was the Black guy in Mission Impossible. And he was somebody that we could look up to. So basically, those were kind of the only two Black people that you could see on TV. And this is later than Ed Sullivan. So we would watch those shows. And then the next show, which you guys wouldn't remember, would be, it was called I Spy with Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby, yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I Spy. I think it was Bill Cosby and Richard Culp, right? Played, they were spies, right? We had a Black guy who was actually playing a spy. We're talking about 3 television shows in the mid-60s, right? Which were kind of the first shows during that time. Sidney Poitier in the movies did Lilies of the Field. And To Sir with Love. And it was like, okay, we have a couple of Black people, but we're talking about out of all the TV shows in the world, you got Julia, this guy that's a co-star on Mission Impossible. You got the co-star on I Spy with Bill Cosby, but every other show was completely white. It was crazy. And people don't realize it. And the thing about it is the kids and the people in this generation do not realize what we had to do just to get a chance to be seen on television, or just to get a chance to have a Voting Rights Act so that we could vote like normal people. We're talking 1965. That conceptually is not that long ago.
No, that's 60 years ago. You
Right.
know, the time of, my mother and certainly my grandparents and all of that, my uncles. And so I think that you make a really good point, especially in the world that we live in right now, thinking about what feels like rights being taken away and things moving backwards and people being afraid, all of these different things that are going on, that there was so much hard fought for us just to get to this place with so much further to go. And
people died for us to have these rights. And we these kids now take them for granted. But the reason that I did this documentary, or that when I say I, me, Sasha, Margot, Rafi, all of us, the reason we did this was this is a passion project. This younger generation needs to know about this history. I mean, I was talking to a 24-year-old college graduate, a couple of college graduates. I know the one I was talking to was 24 years old. And they were saying, well, what are you doing? I said, well, right now I'm working with Stevie Wonder on doing so and so and so. And they said, who's Stevie Wonder? I was taken aback. What do you mean, who's Stevie Wonder? Right? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna pause right here. I have a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, and an 18-year-old, and they all know who Stevie Wonder is.
That's because of you.
True.
That's because of you.
And they know lyrics to songs.
Well, here's the thing. Let me tell you what I said. I said, you don't know Stevie Wonder. They said, no, don't know. I said, I bet you know his songs. And they said, no way. And then I went, happy birthday to ya. And then he was like, oh, yeah, of course. Right?
But it's important to know the history behind that song. This isn't just a birthday song to sing, for just anybody.
No question about it. See, because here's the thing. Stevie Wonder performed on Ed Sullivan. That was his first national TV appearance. Okay? It got him to be visible in the big pop white world. And this guy goes on, because of the exposure that he initially got, he goes on to write the song and to be the person responsible for galvanizing our community into creating a special holiday,
a federal holiday
for Martin Luther King. Right? This is why this is so important, because without Ed Sullivan, I don't think we would have had a Barack Obama. The reason I say that is because Ed Sullivan gave the platform. Berry Gordy signed the Jackson 5. And the Jackson 5 had Michael Jackson. And then Berry Gordy decides, okay, years later, I'm going to do a movie called The Wiz. And I'm going to have Michael Jackson and Diana Ross in this movie. And you know what? I'm going to have Quincy Jones do the music for this movie. So that happens. And then through that, Michael and Quincy say, hey, listen, let's get together and let's do an album. They do an album which is Thriller, and it becomes the biggest album in the world, and it gets the attention of Steven Spielberg, who is the biggest director in the world. And he says to Quincy, hey, listen, you're doing such a great job over here in music. Why don't you produce this movie with me? They then produced the movie, The Color Purple, right? But when Quincy was in Chicago, he sees this regional talk show host and says to this talk show host, you would be great in my movie. And they put her in the movie, and through the popularity of that movie, her show gains national attention and she gets a national deal. And she gets popularized through that. And now she decides that she, with her popularity, is going to endorse a candidate by the name of Barack Obama, which becomes our first Black president. Through the popularity of Ed Sullivan and through Berry Gordy making sure that he took advantage of that popularity, we have a president now, or we had a president that now gives all of our Black children the ability to say, you know what? I can be that. I can do that. So it was a lot of things that had to happen. It wasn't just Ed Sullivan, but that was a part of the component, because there had to be, we had to have acceptance. And what Ed Sullivan did is by touching these people and patting them on the back and showing the world that he had no prejudice. That gave a lot of people who were scared of Blackness the ability to say, you know what? These Black folks ain't so bad. And they are the most talented, right? And by the way, that was the big deal. Ed Sullivan didn't care about anything but whether or not you were going to be exciting for his audience. And so it didn't matter if you were Black, if you were Jewish, if you were Irish, if you were green, if you were Mexican, it didn't matter. All he cared about was, is this going to be entertaining for my audience? And if it was, he put it on his show. Against the powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to
Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington.
Hi, everybody. This is Kerry Gordy, and you're listening to Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington, my girl.
You know, you breaking that down and giving that through line from Ed Sullivan all the way to Barack Obama just made me think about how it is all of our responsibility to, with our proximity to power and whoever we know, that we're nurturing our own talent and we're doing the best of our abilities, but also the folks around us, lifting them up and networking and connecting dots, because you don't know what that domino effect will be. And you think about so many people, because I'm sure there were millions of other really talented folks over the last centuries. Well, since America was created, you think about the amount of Black folks who could have been best-selling authors or actresses or inventors or what have you, who didn't have opportunities or weren't even able to read. You know, you don't know what was possible with the amount of limitations that were put on people and the amount of people who wanted to be, you know, in movies or on television or in politics or whatever it was, but never had that opportunity, just never got the chance, never wasn't in the right room. So, you know, being in the right room and making yourself seen, but also the other folks in that room seeing you and not gatekeeping so that we can lift so much up.
Well, here's the thing. You said something. You said everybody needs to do their part. Yes, Ed Sullivan's part was a very important part, but it was just one of the cogs in the wheel to get to the end result. Just like what I did is my part. I couldn't do Ed Sullivan's part. I couldn't do Berry Gordy's part, but I could do my part, which was doing what I did to popularize what he did and to show how much of a hero he was. You are doing your part by giving me the platform to tell this to thousands of people. So to that end, everybody's part matters. But if you do nothing, it's going to fade. We're going to lose our culture and we're going to lose our history. And here's the thing, because the administration right now does not care about our history, right? So if we don't do it, we're going to be written out of history. And so we need to take the ball in our own hands and say, listen, let's do our part. And everybody does their little part. And by the way, the part might be nothing more than whoever's listening to this right now says, you know what? I got to tell some people to go watch this thing, right? And if they love it, to give it thumbs up. I'm not asking for anybody that doesn't think what we did to go out and push it, because I don't believe in that, because I did this project with passion and purpose and pride. And so to that end, if someone really does love it, then tell that person and tell that person to tell other people to actually watch it, give it the thumbs up, and post it or do whatever it is so that other people can know about it, especially Black people or music lovers, because those are the people that really need to know. The white community is not going to let Elvis die, and they are not going to let the Beatles die. Okay?
That's very true.
But the fact of the matter is, I heard a 24-year-old Black college graduate not know who Stevie Wonder was concerning to me.
It is because, like you said, it's so much more than just knowing a musician, because there's so much history behind all of that. And thinking about Stevie Wonder specifically, him being on Ed Sullivan, it would have been very easy for him to have been looked over as just some blind kid, from Flint, Michigan, who plays a harmonica. Like, I can't imagine that people were like clamoring that that's what they were looking for the next big thing, right? And so it would have been so easy for him. And then thinking about all of the music and the genius that he is, that still is, because he is still with us today, that we would have missed out on. And so, I think that's a great reason to be grateful, certainly for Ed Sullivan right there, because I'm a big fan.
Stevie is a great man. He's a great person. He's got a great heart. He has the advantage of being blind. And when I say the advantage, he doesn't see color. How can a blind person be prejudiced against another person because of their color? So with Stevie, it's totally about human rights, content of character, and the golden rule. Treat people as you would want to be treated.
You talked a little bit about, being able to see certain things on TV and giving you the hope and idea of things you can do in your future. Also, you had an advantage as Berry Gordy being your father. And so I'm assuming that meant you got to see a lot of these folks in person, coming in and out and through and around the studio and your home and all of that, to see some of that up close. At the time, did it just feel like these are regular people walking around doing things, right? And so did it excite you to want to be a part of this family business? Or did you ever think about doing the exact opposite and not wanting to have anything to do with music and production?
Well, first of all, everybody that came into the studio, they were unknowns when they came in, okay? And what they had was talent. And what my father did was he was able to see the talent in someone and say, you know what? We can exploit that talent and give that talent the tools they're going to need over and above their talent. Because yes, you do need talent, but you also need A&R, which is the artist and repertoire, the songs and so forth and so on. You need finance. You need business affairs. You need marketing. You need promotion. You need distribution. You need to understand collections. So he put all of that around them, created an artist development hub for them so they knew how to act in public and they knew how to be in front of the Queen of England, right? He put all of that stuff together. So he gave them the tools that they needed so that they could focus on their physical craft. Now, going back to the question that you asked me, all of these people that came in, they were friends of mine. They were family members. They felt like, oh, this is Uncle Smokey. This is my big brother Stevie. They didn't feel like stars because they weren't stars yet. And so everybody was a family. And the way that my father and mother put it together, everybody loved each other and everybody helped on everybody else's session. If the Miracles were in the studio and they needed some more people to come and clap and stomp and yell and cheer on their record, and the Supremes were out in the lobby, yes, the Supremes would come in, clap on their sessions, blah, blah, blah. If there was a session and the drummer was late and Marvin Gaye was around, Marvin Gaye would come in the studio and do the drums for that session. So to that fact, everybody worked on everybody else's stuff. It was a real family. The thing about it is that I didn't realize the history that was being made, but I did realize that I love the environment and the music. And I knew that at some level, I was going to be in this business as I grew up because it was fun.
And what a privilege that is to do something that is fun and that you enjoy. So many have work that they just have to do in order to pay a bill. But to be able to get to a place where, we think about, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? That sort of thing. And sometimes folks reach that and sometimes they don't. But to have that opportunity to do something that they love and don't even necessarily think of work as work all the time is such a blessing. And I say it all the time when it comes to the work that I do, that it is a prayer for me, my family, my community to do this work in advocacy and to advocate for Black women around reproductive justice issues, to be able to do this podcast, to organize, to do all of these things. But also it's, a privilege to be able to serve my community. And so to hear you say, that you wanted to do this, and you may not even know exactly what part of the business you wanted to do, but you knew that you wanted to do this and it will be fun. And it feels to me like you're still having fun doing it. It's a blessing.
Well, it's really funny. Not only am I still having fun, but what I do now, and your audience doesn't know this, but I used to, I ran the urban division for Warner Brothers. I also ran Paisley Park, which is Prince's company. And I have 9 gold records to show, gold, platinum, and multi-platinum records that we did together. I was actually with him while he was Prince and when he changed his name.
To the symbol.
Yeah, I had to go through all of that craziness.
What did you refer to him as when he was the symbol?
Okay, this is crazy. Because I was running his company, I didn't want to refer to him as boss. So I referred to him as man. And everybody that worked for me referred to him as boss. So I would call him man, he would call me man, and it would be like I would get a phone call. My assistant would call me and say, "KG, boss is on the phone," and I would say, "Hey man." He'd go, "Hey man." I'd say, "What's going on, man?" "Nothing, man. I want you to do me a favor." What do you need, man?" "Okay, listen, I need you to liquidate the company and fire everybody." And then he'd hang up the phone. Those are the kind of calls that I would get, right? But we did amazing together, and he was the most talented. Well, he and Stevie are the most talented of people that I've ever had a chance to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine the amount of musical brilliance in that space, just how thick the creativity could probably get.
Yes.
So for folks who may not know or understand like what you do as a producer, how would you explain to the audience what an executive producer is and what is your part in getting these documentaries and this music out?
Okay, so why they came to me is because of my contact base, my history, my ability to not take no for an answer. I just happen to have the correct knowledge base for everything that they needed to do at the time. When they came to me, they were like, "Okay, we'd like you to help us executive produce this thing," and blah blah blah. And then I bring all of my my vast knowledge of the business, all of my contacts to the table, the whole history that I bring to the table. And so what we do is we just take all of that stuff and look at what Sasha has as a director, what Margot has as a producer, and an archive with regard to all of the stuff. And we all take our collective everything and put it all together and make sure that we're on a definitive vision. Because as you know, this movie could have been made anyway. I mean, when I say it could have been made 1,000 ways, most people, I'm assuming, would have made it from the perspective of Elvis, had the Beatles. Elvis had Elvis Presley. Elvis had the Rolling Stones, right? That is what you would expect. And what we wanted to do is something that was way more emotional and way more relevant and something that was provocative to make people think about what we really did have to go through. So when you put my history together, Sasha's history together, Margot's history together, Rafi's history together, and all the other people that ended up helping us along the way, that's kind of what I have to do as an executive producer to kind of look at it from the grand scheme of things.
And I want to make sure, we mention this because Sasha Jenkins has passed away.
Yes.
Recently, as of May of this year. And he was quite young. I think he was 53. And so, it's tough at any age. It really is. But, someone in their 50s, someone, still doing so much active work, it hits a little bit different. Was he able to see the final product before his passing?
Well, yes, he was able to see the whole thing. He passed in May. We released in July. So we were just doing the final touches on it. So yes, he got to see it. And he was very, very proud of it. I'm so sad. And I really feel that we're going to get some awards for this thing. And I'm really sad and sorry that he won't be able to participate in what I feel is probably, and he's done great stuff, but what I feel is probably his greatest achievement and greatest film. Yeah. Also, I wanted to say what I do now, given my history, is I am a copyright termination expert. I terminate copyrights and deals for people who assign their rights away early in their careers before they had the leverage to make the best deals for themselves. And I use that leverage to negotiate with the major companies, whether it's Warner, Universal, Sony, whoever, the big publishing companies and so forth, to either give us a much better deal or take their copyrights back. And we've done amazing deals for some of our clients and have gotten some of them multi-million-dollar settlements. And the problem is there's a finite window in which you have to do this. And if you don't do it, you lose the right forever. So when I found out that there was this little trick in the law, I kind of pioneered this with a couple of other people, maybe 14 years ago. And we've really helped quite a few clients either get their stuff back or get paid. And so that has been my contribution to everything that all of you guys have done to make my family amazing and great. My give back is to try to help those who weren't able to get the best deals for themselves in the beginning of their careers.
Yeah, because I know, I think we talked about it before. The music business seems really cutthroat, and especially it seemed like it used to be. It almost seemed kind of mob-like when you watch these old movies that are that sort of simulate or fictionalized versions of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Cadillac Records is one. And it seemed like there were a lot of artists who didn't end up with the money they thought they should end up with when they were writing, or that they were writing music and then they were losing it to other people because then it would just be given to white artists and other folks would never even hear them singing the songs that they created. And it's actually escaping me because I was just reading about an artist that I had never heard of before. He wrote a bunch of music, I think, and some might have went to Elvis or what have you. And, he ended up having his wife read all his contracts and made some really great deals for him, and even put their children as beneficiaries to the copyrights to their music, which was great because actually, they ended up dying, I think, in a car accident. I can't remember what his name is off the top of my head. But, that's how you build generational wealth, right? That's how you build legacy is, being able to hold on to your creativity and your creative rights. So the fact that you are helping folks be able to do that, I'm assuming, and you can tell me, like, what does that look like for current artists and future artists? Especially, I know a lot of things are different now in the music business, especially with the internet and social media and all of that, and ways that music is put out. Is what you're doing going to also be able to help them hold on to their rights as well?
Well, what I do doesn't really kick in until the 35th year. In other words, you can reclaim your rights at year 35. So yes, in 35 years, if they have assigned their rights away, then they can regain those rights in that 35th year. But now, people are a little more sophisticated than they were back then. The lawyers are more sophisticated. And I would just make sure that if I were a new artist, I wouldn't really care so much about getting in the deal as much as I would care about how do I get out of the deal if the things don't work correctly, because you don't want to be stuck in something that's not working. But if it's working, then you can always renegotiate. You can always renegotiate with success, because nobody wants to, totally screw up their whole success. And as long as in your contract, it has a finite life, you know that at a certain point, okay, this contract is going to be over, and now I have the ability to do a new contract based on the terms that I see fit, based on the success that I've had. So I think that all artists need the opportunity, but it's very hard to get the opportunity if you don't give the person who's giving you the opportunity the ability to make some money while they're giving you this opportunity. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but make sure that there are plateaus in whatever contract you have, so that if the person that's guaranteeing you that they're going to help you and get to a certain place, that if they don't reach those plateaus, you have a way out of the contract.
That makes sense. I think we all live and learn. And I think just even saying, the history, again, going back to us knowing our history helps people in the future not make some of the same mistakes and do things better.
Well, wait a minute. I want to say one thing. A lot of people think they made mistakes by signing these owners' contracts. They didn't make a mistake. They had no choice. Okay, I'll give an example. There was this guy, I can't remember his name, but it was Frederick Milhouse or something. And he was incredibly talented. And he was talented in the, on the level of Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder. He's very talented. But when he was approached by whatever record company he was approached by, they wanted 100% of his publishing. And he said, no, I'm not giving you 100% of my publishing, right? But at that time, that was kind of the standard in order for a publishing company to take you. They would take 100% of the publishing and they would give you 100% of the writers. So what happens is that he didn't want to give that up. And the point is that the world doesn't know about him. But the world knows about Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson and other people who gave up 100% in the beginning until they got to the point where they could make the best deals for themselves, and they don't have to give up anything now, right? So
that is also true.
So you have to get into the game. When I say 100% of the publishing, that's basically 50% of the copyright money. It's not 100% of the money. It's 50% of the copyright money, right? Okay. Because the publishers came in and they said, wait a minute, this is what we do. We publish your material and we're going to get paid for the publishing side, and we're going to let you have 100% of your writer side. Now, some unscrupulous people didn't do that. Some unscrupulous people took it all, right? But when it was correct, they would take their publishing side and the other people would take their writer side. As time progressed, people started being able to keep a larger percentage of their publishing, and sometimes 100% of their publishing, because the company wants that artist so bad that they're saying, okay, we don't care about the publishing aspect. We want you as a recording artist. But that's kind of rare.
Okay. So, I just remember I finally found the guy's name. It's Jesse Belvin was the singer I was talking about. Jesse Belvin, or Belvin, Jesse Belvin, Belvin. Want to make sure I get that right. And his wife was Joanne Belvin, and they died in a car accident. She died sometime later because she was taken to a hospital that was segregated, and they would not work on her, and they left her untreated until Jackie Wilson showed up and paid them. And then they started working her, and then she was in a coma by then, and then she died. But she was the one who negotiated the contract for him and made sure that their children were in that. So it worked out in the sense of that there was money for the children because they both passed away from this car accident in 1960. So I just wanted to close that loop because it would have drove me crazy if I would not have remembered his name.
Well, that's amazing that she was able to do that and intuitive enough and smart enough to do that.
Oh, yeah. Behind every good man, we'll say. Going back to the documentary, your father, Berry Gordy, was also featured and interviewed. Now, did you know before starting on this that he already talk about the significance of Ed Sullivan and how that helped move his artist?
Ed Sullivan was a topic of conversation in the family. It wasn't like this is something that just came up because of the documentary. This is something that he realized, if I could get my artist on Ed Sullivan, that would be a dream come true for me, right? I mean, that was a major win if we could do that, because it wasn't like it's easy to get on Ed Sullivan, right? I mean, it was a very, very important component of Motown's success. I mean, I believe the Supremes were on Ed Sullivan probably more than anybody else. I mean, Ed loved the Supremes, and he loved him some Diana Ross.
That we know.
Okay.
That we know. I had the opportunity to interview Mary Wilson. She lived in Vegas up until her passing. I got to see her perform, and I got to interview her at the radio station. This was, I don't even know what year this was, 2015, maybe 2014, so 13. I don't know. I look at pictures and see my hair, and that'll tell me what year it was.
Right.
But she was so graceful and pleasant and interesting. And for someone who, for me, is like an icon, right? Just the Supremes themselves is this iconic group. And to just sit down and, let's just talk was, a dream come true for me. I wish my grandparents would have still been alive at the time to know that I did that, because they would just got a big old kick out of it, right? And so, but to be able to talk to her, it was a wonderful experience. She was so open and had an interesting life.
She was great. I loved Mary, and she was a really good friend of mine. I loved her. And she was clear, she was concise, she was intelligent, and she was talented, and she was beautiful.
Yes, she was. And I've always said that of all of the celebrities I've gotten to interview over the years, it's always been what I consider the biggest ones, the ones that even if you don't really know their name, their music, you know who they are. Smokey Robinson, Mary Wilson, Gladys Knight, that they're always the nicest.
Yeah.
They're always the most graceful and always have taken the most time with me. And I was green with Gladys Knight, but I came dressed in my best suit because I also, folks from Detroit, we have a certain standard on what you need to look like when you walk into a room. And so I had on my pink, not real Chanel type outfit. And I think that's what got me the extra time, because the handler assistant was like, we have to wrap this up. We're done. And she's like, no. We're gonna talk a little bit more. And all just so graceful. And all of these folks having something to do with Motown at some point or another in their careers. And so it always made me think that there was a certain level of class that was required to be a part of Motown, to be a part of this space, and everyone seems to have it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. 100%. I mean, I have to tell you, there are a lot of major stars from Motown, but for all intents and purposes, since we were all a family, everybody was so nice. To this day, Stevie Wonder is one of my best friends, and Smokey Robinson is still one of my best friends. But they're a little older, but Stevie was more like a big brother, and Smokey was more like an uncle. Me and Michael Jackson, as 10-year-olds, or 10 to almost to our mid-20s, we were really good friends. So it was just a special thing. Most of them were so nice. Some of them had issues, like David Ruffin, for instance. He had certain issues with drugs and so forth and so on. But for the most part, I have to say that most of the Motown artists, they had class, they had style, they were really great people, and they were appreciative of what they had attained, and appreciative of just being able to be in the city that was Motown's.
Well, there's nothing like Detroit.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely nothing like Detroit. So let me ask you, this is sort of out of left field. I have been wanting to see a Marvin Gaye biop forever. You're the person that people don't say no to. So is this something that you can make happen? Because I feel like, the world wants it. We need it. Can we, why can't we get one?
Okay, so here's the thing. The Marvin Gaye scenario is very complicated, because you have so many people that have and so many companies that have to okay it in order for it to happen. Right? If you think about all of the different people, and anyone that doesn't okay it for whatever their reasons are, they could be personal reasons, they could be monetary reasons, they could be whatever the reasons are. If any one of them don't okay it, then it stops it from getting done. So I've seen several different manifestations of the Marvin Gaye biopic, documentary, everything happening, and they've gotten to a certain point, and then when they get to a specific point, one of those people, whether it's Sony, whether it's Universal, whether it's Sony Music, whether it's Motown, whether it's Kerry Gordy, whether it's whoever it is, if one of them says no because there's something that they don't like about it, then, or like the concept of it, then it doesn't get made. So that's the thing. And at this point, I don't think it's a money thing. So that even makes it rougher, because most of the world runs by money, right? But there's a lot of issues in the Marvin Gaye issue, because, the way Marvin died, I mean, it's a lot of things that certain people don't want the history to go down saying this is how it went down, right?
Is that about just tarnishing a legacy to a point where thinking that people would want to not celebrate him in that same way? No. Okay, so let me give you a scenario. Marvin had sets of children with different women. One set of children may want to make their mother look good in the film. The other children may want their mother to look good in the film. I'm just saying. I got you. No, I got you. It's hard when you're in the spotlight and so many things are going on. Everything we do in the dark, we don't necessarily want to come to light, right? Everyone wants to make themselves look as good as possible, whether we're thinking about whatever. And we have different versions of the truth.
And the company that's putting out the music, the movie, is not caring about the legacy. They're caring about whether the movie is going to sell, right? And they know that sex, drugs, and rock and roll sell. right?
Yeah,
So,
because I was going to say, can't we just keep it about the music? Because that's what a lot of people are interested in, his songwriting and his process.
You could, but remember, each thing, just like I made this movie with Sunday Best with Ed Sullivan, every movie can be made 1,000 ways. So is somebody's vision of the movie has to be in alignment with all of those factions. All of those factions have to be in the same alignment in order to make the movie. For instance, if they would have came to me and said, we want to make the Ed Sullivan movie, but we want to make it from this point of view, I would have been like, no, that doesn't work for me, because we needed to come from a specific point of view. So with the Marvin Gaye story, me as a filmmaker, I could see 5 ways that movie could be made. If I wrote a book about you, I could write a totally true story about you and make you look like the greatest angel in the world, right? Or I could write a totally true story about you and make you look like the worst devil in the world. Right?
Yeah, it depends on which one of my ex-husbands you ask.
Well, that's the point I'm making. That's the exact point I'm making, right? So the point is that everybody has to be on one accord, right? And until we can get everybody on one accord, it's going to be hard to get that movie made. And it got very close to getting made twice.
Yeah, because I thought Jesse Martin was going to do it. He left Law and Order to do it. I thought he would have been the perfect Marvin Gaye. He has a great voice and he's handsome.
Well,
I'm a fan of that one.
I don't know. Originally, they had Sony wanted to do it, and this is how long ago it goes. Sony wanted to do it. They had Oliver Stone and Cameron Crowe, and they wanted Will Smith to play Marvin Gaye, right? And not that I think that Will Smith would be the best Marvin Gaye of everybody, but at the time, he was the biggest star in the world. If they couldn't get it done with Sony's money, Cameron Crowe, Oliver Stone, and Will Smith, right?
Yeah.
That's rough, right?
Yeah.
That's rough.
Are there other documentaries or people that you think you want to focus on? Do you have a sticky note section of people that you want to highlight and get out there?
Here's the thing. I have a documentary that I'm making right now that I'm very excited about. Here's the thing. When you're approaching the Netflix of the world and the Apples and the Amazons and the ABC, CBS, WB, when you're approaching everybody, see, nobody really wants to do the job that they used to do. Our job used to be to bring the creative project, right? And their job used to be to market, promote, and distribute that project, right? Now, ubiquitously, everybody wants you to kind of do their marketing or their initial marketing for them, because they don't want to spend the time, the effort, and the money to educate the public on what it should be. So you would think that selling Ed Sullivan to Netflix was a simple thing, right? But if you think about it, most Netflix executives were too young to know Ed Sullivan, and also they're probably white, 35, so didn't even really know who Ed Sullivan was, and really didn't know who those artists were that we were promoting, right?
Well, if a 24-year-old doesn't know who Stevie Wonder is, then yeah.
That's right. So what I was saying was, there are a few other subjects that I absolutely love the stories of, and I'm looking at them and I'm saying, okay, I know that if I do this story, that I'm going to run up against a tough sale. Like, I have this guy that I want to do the story on. His name is Joe Isgro. Okay. And Joe Isgro was the guy in the 70s and 80s that if you didn't use his set of independent promoters, you couldn't get your record played on radio. Right? And so he was known kind of as this Gambino kind of person that had this syndicate of radio promoters that if you didn't use his syndicate of people, you couldn't get your records played. And he had all of the companies held hostage. And they had to end up paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars to get people to play their records. And he ended up breaking more records than anybody in the history of the world, right? But the problem is that the buying public doesn't know who he is. Right.
But that's always the beauty, right? Like to learn about somebody new that did something that this is the reason why you probably even heard what you heard, even if he was doing it in a nefarious way, that you learn about this new sort of gangster-like radio.
Agreed. But the point is that remember, I have 2 sales to make. Mm-hmm. The first sale that I have to make is to the streamers and the broadcasters. Right? And if they can't bite off on it because they're saying, wait a minute, now instead of, see, when the Netflix crawl goes by, right? And you see Tom Cruise and you see Kendrick Lamar and you see whoever else you see, you stop on those things, right? But if Joe Isgro passes by, you don't stop on him because you don't know who he is. Right? And Netflix and all of these people don't want to sit up there and have to promote and market and everything to educate the public on who that person is, right? And put up billboards and do all the things that they have to do, right? They don't want to do that. So what happens is it's harder. So as I look at these documentaries and movies in general, I want to do things where the personality is known or the situation is known to a broad public. So I am going to do whatever I can. Not so far, I'm 3 for 3. So I've done three movies so far, but you can't count The Last Dragon, which is a movie that I did a lot of the music on back when it first came out. I don't count that because I wasn't a filmmaker. I was just doing the music for it. But I've done 3, which is the Rick James, the Biz Markie, and now the Ed Sullivan, right? I'm 3 for 3, and I want to make sure that I become 4 for 4 and 5 for 5. You want to be political in as much as you don't want to do something where your odds of getting it done are diminished because you picked the wrong subject matter that might be incredible, might be great, but might not be the thing that is an easy sell to the major streamers and the major broadcasters.
You mentioned to me a while ago that you've also been producing plays as well. Can we chat a little bit about that? I would love to know more. And when folks outside of California might be able to see it.
Well, Chicago is soon because we made a deal for Chicago. But 44, okay, let me tell you what 44 is. 44 is the story of Obama's first administration told through Joe Biden's warped memory sense of what he thought it was. So what happens is that people think that it was Michelle that was in love with Barack, but actually it was Joe. So
who came up with this?
No, this is Eli Bowman. He's a major director, producer, and writer. He came up with this concept. We put one of my clients, Shanice Wilson, in as Michelle Obama. We were in Culver City for 13 weeks at the Kirk Douglas Theater in Los Angeles. And this theater has been there for 21 years. This play we put in for 13 weeks broke every record in the history of the Kirk Douglas Theater. And And so we're doing really, really well with it. And all I have to say is it's very, very left. So
Is it salacious? It sounds a little salacious.
Oh, it's okay. Put it this way. It's a lot of cursing in it. Okay.
So it's for 18. It's 18 and up is what we're saying.
Pretty much so. Because on your podcast, I can't even sing the most prominent song.
I mean, you can, but folks would have to tune in online. They won't be able to hear it on the radio, but you can.
No, I won't do it. But my point is that we have all kind of songs. Like there's a song in there called "How Black Is Too Black," right?
This is starting to sound a little bit like Book of Mormon.
I don't know. I didn't see Book of Mormon, but I'm telling you, I'm telling you, it is funny. It's hilarious. And we are getting incredible feedback. And we just, we're going into Chicago. Oh God, I don't have the dates, but it's soon. It's soon. I believe it's either early September or late August. And then we just made a deal off Broadway. So we're going to be going into New York.
Is the goal to get to Broadway?
Well, I don't know if the goal is to get to Broadway, but the goal is to, like, I think it's incredible hitting all of the major urban centers, because it is definitely something that the culture will support in every urban hub.
So it's going to get to Detroit then.
It's going to get, listen, it's going to get everywhere. It's going to get everywhere. But right now,
Vegas.
Right. Yeah, it's going to get everywhere. Right now, we're just excited about the next move to Chicago and to New York.
Just have to look for the 44.
Yeah.
And we'll search the 44 in Chicago and see when it's coming up.
And I'll come on again once we have everything. I'll give you a little preview, something that you can edit and play a little bit.
Oh, look, I will get to Chicago and just come see it, and then we can talk about it. You know, I love theater. You know, you started talking about The Wiz, and I was going to be like, look, right here,
right?
I've got my playbills are scattered around from everything I've ever seen and the posters and such. And
look up the playbill for 44, the musical.
Oh, it's a musical.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because that is even better.
Yes. And you'll understand how that ties in with what I'm doing over here on the Ed Sullivan thing, because right now everything that I'm doing is with purpose and passion.
Oh, I see it. 44 is a melting pot of music that delivers everything you'd come to expect from a musical about the Obama era. Sarah Palin scream singing "Drill Me Baby" like Ozzy Osbourne, President Obama crooning "How Black Is Too Black" over a smooth Motown groove, and of course, Filibusters, a hardcore hip-hop jam where Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz rap "Green Eggs and Ham" in its entirety. The political world is buzzing about 44. And Barack Obama exclaims, "Of all the musicals about my presidency, this is one of them." I was going to ask what they thought of it, but that says a lot just by saying that. So, this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
This sounds exactly up my alley. So no, I can make it to Chicago without a problem. So it's going to be playing in Chicago. It looks like it starts in late August at the Studebaker Theater.
Right.
It's at the Studebaker Theater in Chicago. So first show is August 23rd, which is already sold out, and the 24th is already sold out. So the next available tickets are the 26th of August, and it's running through September. Mm-hmm. So that is exciting. So we're going to make sure that we add those notes.
But so many people, I wasn't able to get so many people tickets because it's sold out. We added more dates and then they sold out. A lot of the people that that wanted to get tickets couldn't get them because they waited too long.
Mm-hmm. No, I will try to get there and make that happen.
Thanks.
And if y'all have any media passes. Before we go, I want to make sure I ask you about your legacy and what you want your legacy to be, and framing that question around, you come from this lineage of a legacy that's already, you were born into a legacy, although he hadn't quite gotten to the epitome of what he is known for today, is your father, but it's there, right? And so wondering how hard it is to separate from, to be your own self, and create your own pathway and your own legacy, or if that's even important to you, or if it's just an add-on to the Gordy legacy in and of itself, because you look just the same, which I think is like, you know, my daughters look like me and I look like my mother and my grandfather. Sometimes you look up stuff and you're like, huh. So to look like a copy paste of your father and then be into the music business the way your father was, you know, have you been able to create the legacy that you want, or are you still striving for something more?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so being Berry Gordy's son is an asset and a liability. And it's an asset because very rarely when I make a phone call to someone, I don't get that phone call returned. Okay, so that's the asset. But when the call returns, and I'm an entrepreneur, I have businesses, I have ventures, I have things that I need financed. When I get that return call, the call comes, they listen to what I say, and then they ask me for money, right? Because they assume that I got it like that. And I'm like, well, I'm Kerry Gordy, not Berry Gordy. As it relates to legacy, what the world has done for me and my family, I appreciate. And so my job is to give back and pay it forward as best as I possibly can. And so these projects that I do are more for the pay it forward of it, and to make sure that when I leave this earth, that I've done something to enhance society, especially our Black society, because I believe that a lot of things have happened that I'm not. There were a lot of things that happened that I was very proud of, and then there are a lot of things that hurt us as a community. For instance, I love that we started with Ed Sullivan and we got Julia, Mission Impossible, and those kind of shows on the air, Bill Cosby and so forth. I love that. And then when Oprah got on the air and became this billionaire and galvanized the whole talk show area, I was so proud. I was so proud of the intelligence and everything that we were doing as a people, coming from slavery all the way to now where we can control our destinies. I saw the music come in and play a role. And in certain instances, when rap first came out, I thought it was amazing because people were telling their stories and it was pretty much positive. Then I saw a lot of the big companies get involved. All they wanted to do was make money, and they let their rappers talk about a whole bunch of things that were felonious and pitted the East against the West and the whole thing. And it became something that was not rap in general, but a segment of it became something that I thought was destructive to the progress that we started to make. And so now it becomes cool to be felonious. It becomes cool to talk about hoes and bitches. It becomes cool to use the N-word, like it doesn't mean anything, right? And so to that, I just think that it's incumbent for us to understand that we have to really focus on changing that narrative and making it so that we're pushing out a positive message, at least in the equal amount that we're pushing out a negative message. So I want my legacy to be that I left the world a better place than it was from a urban perspective than I received, based on my ability to be the seer of music and for my ability as a filmmaker. So that's what I'd like my legacy to be. And not necessarily, it's very hard to get away from the Gordy legacy, because what my father did was truly amazing. I mean, at one point, he was responsible for more Black millionaires than anybody in the history of the world. He was the number one minority-owned business for 10 years in a row, right? This is like unheard of kind of stuff. It's incumbent upon us to understand that responsibility and not to do anything that infringes on that legacy, because that legacy is the initial legacy that brought me into being and what this future is going to be for us.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, especially for my older listeners, how is your father?
He's 95 years old and he's doing great.
That's wonderful. And that's a blessing.
It is a
95,
blessing.
to get to 95.
But I do have to tell you, he was not the easiest person. I mean, from the time I was 0 to the time I was 25, everything that I did and everything that I brought him, his answer to me when I said, "Dad, do you like it?" He would go, "It's garbage."
Did that sharpen you?
People don't believe me. Well, it's really funny. I didn't really care. Other people cared. Other people cared because I knew it wasn't garbage. I mean, within myself. But those people who are insecure within themselves would get really upset. I was just like, it's not garbage. Let me go fix it up and I'll do. But I got to the point of where he told me my stuff was garbage so much that one time when he told me, "This is great," that's what effed me up. When he told me something was great. Right. So now most of the things that I do, he thinks are great. But coming up, it was rough.
Will he allow you to do a documentary on him in his career?
I don't know, because here's the thing. If he's going to do a they have a documentary that they did on Motown. Mm-hmm. He's going to do a biopic, for instance, on himself. That's really hard because of the way he is. He's the only one that could do himself justice the way he would want to do it. I think he would want it so accurate that it would be impossible for anybody else to write.
It'd be very long.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, him being 95 and, having those conversations around, okay, Dad, people are going to want to know more about your life for decades to come. So you got to give permission to somebody to write it and get it out there, so we don't have the Marvin Gaye situation, so that we can, because as you said, we can't erase our own history. And with him being someone who's done what he's done and created so many Black millionaires, his story needs to be there too.
If it does happen, it will either be me or Suzanne DePass or a combination of both.
And that sounds like the right thing. And so before you go, because we've been chatting for a while, but I do want to ask you, and I ask everybody this, about the American dream. What is your version of the American dream?
Oh man, my. See, my version of the American dream is where everybody has the opportunity with hard work to attain what they would love to have, and I believe that health and happiness are the two most important things in life. And I think that if you have the ability to achieve health and happiness, then everything else is achievable if you have all of the the right foundation in place. Your parents have to give you the correct food for knowledge, and have to give you the correct principles, and so forth and so on. And then you kind of have to take it from there. But my vision of the American dream, and this might be a little different because this is what I do in my own personal life, is my definition of intelligence is one's ability to live a healthy and happy present moment. Because I believe that any day or hour that's wasted in the negative is wasted time, because we only have a finite amount of time in life. If you use that time for negativity, you've wasted an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have this conversation with you today. And I am so grateful for you to be a guest on Sticky Note Conversations. And more so than anything, I also want to make sure people watch the documentary. So listen to this conversation, but then also get on Netflix and watch Sunday Best, the untold story of Ed Sullivan. I think you will all enjoy it, and I look forward to hearing folks' feedback on that. And, until next time, this has been Sticky Note Conversations.
See you later, alligator.
Right.
Thanks for listening to Sticky Note Conversations with Erika Washington. Hosted and executively produced by Erika Washington, with editing by Black Gypsy LLC and Simone Endress. Special thanks to KUNV 91.5 in Las Vegas. This show is powered by Make It Work Nevada, a project of Tides Advocacy. And a special thank you to Grove GT Teague and Eno Savad, who made our new theme song, Way Below Acceptable.